The gang are in China, invading the Palace Museum for a mahjong set. Also, Lupin can use it to propose to Fujiko. Speaking of the devil, she takes the set and runs, but her bike is shot at before getting too far. A man named Chan makes himself known, a former science minister who was recently dismissed. Lupin distracts him using firecrackers to escape, and the gang pile onto a bicycle. They then make their way into the 9 million bikes of Beijing, which would be a good evasion method in theory, but 4 people to 1 bike is a bit tough to maintain, so they head into an alley. Thankfully, they're saved by a woman with a car. Pouring a strange liquid onto a book and drinking it, she explains that she's a big fan of Lupin's, now able to speak their language. The liquid is an ancient potion that absorbs the knowledge of a book and allows a person to learn said knowledge upon drinking it. Heading out and having a game of mahjong, Lupin argues with Fujiko that she's supposed to marry him now, but she claims it was only after he beat her in a game. She wins and Lupin takes the victory in stride. Fujiko then tells him he needs intelligence and refined upbringing if she were to consider marrying him. Lupin takes this to heed and drinks the potion, using the Analects of Confucius as a base. The effect is not exactly pleasant. It works though, a little too well, as Lupin rejects money from Jigen and rebuffs Fujiko. The woman from before appears on TV and reveals that she was a disguised Chan, taunting the gang. Lupin then cleans up the mahjong set and uses knockout gas on the gang, intending to return it. Chan intercepts him, introducing himself as a representative of the people. The box is seemingly empty, however, and Lupin decides a good meal might jog his memory on the location of the tiles. As this is going on, Zenigata is trying to find Lupin, learning from a woman that he's been seen driving along the Great Wall. Sure enough, Lupin's there and Zenigata's in pursuit. Chan offers him a gun that fires the learning potion, so Lupin puts it to use. The effect is, Zenigata takes on a cat's personality. They arrive at Chan's home with a near miss of Lupin spotting something behind a certain door. He's then treated to a full meal to jog his memory. The rest of the gang wake up and Chan decides to make a move on Fujiko to try and get the tile's location. Lupin states he's not interested in women, right before decking Chan. He reveals that he used a book on Arsène Lupin alongside the Analects, wanting to find Chan's home and steal his treasures. Lupin then knocks out Chan's men and makes off with the treasure, but their car is tethered. Chan appears and Lupin shows him the box is a trick box, which also hides knockout gas, allowing them to escape. Chan's not beaten though, and reveals his home is also a giant tank. Chan chases the gang across the Great Wall, but is thrown off thanks to Goemon cutting along the merlons. Jigen then fires the learning potion gun at Chan, using a baby book as the basis. Home free, the gang encounters Zenigata again. They decide to turn him back to normal before heading off with their gains. Beginning this batch with a fun episode. We have some weird and wonderful with the potion and a giant tank that uses the Great Wall as a rail. Not to mention, Chan's a generally entertaining villain that Lupin manages to play throughout. Guess he had a book on how to imitate a woman's voice on hand for his disguise. A large supermarket is opening next to the 8th National Bank, and the nearby 5th Family Market is annoyed that they'll be put out of business. Fujiko appears and offers them an idea to bring the supermarket down. Later, the younger man flies around dressed as Superman and causes mass distraction to the public. Lupin's caught in a traffic jam because of this, but more importantly, the first bank, the building Superman's showing off around, is able to be robbed without incident. The robbers skim by Lupin, who decides to give chase out of anger. This backfires when they get knocked over as the robber's car doubles back, on the run from Officer McCreed, a character that's a shout out to Dennis Weaver's McCloud. He finds the car wrecked and a note from Superman saying he'll return the money soon. As McCreed questions the bank's employees, Zenigata does his own investigation and they decide to pool their efforts. Sure enough, Zenigata's found the money with a signature from Superman. This leads McCreed to suspect Zenigata of all people of being Superman. Speaking of which, Superman puts on another show, this time at the second bank. This goes about the same as last time. Meanwhile, the gang enjoy the finest American cuisine, except for Goemon, who wants noodles. He decides to find a market, stumbling across the Fifth Family Market. He complains that the noodles are 3 years out of date, but gets coerced into buying them thanks to the owner's son displaying some super speed. Goemon pays them, but then displays his own ability before heading off. Superman is spotted again, this time at the third bank. Zenigata naturally suspects Lupin, calling a meeting with McCreed's police force. Lupin appears and denies it, leaving Zenigata to tell McCreed they need to actually confirm things if that is the case. The fourth bank is hit and Lupin is escalated to prime suspect anyway. He decides to conduct an investigation on the places hit and discovers they're operating in a circle, the centre of which is Fifth Avenue, incentivising Goemon to take a look at the Fifth Family Market again. He ends up tied up and it's revealed that Superman is actually a family of identical brothers, explaining how he was able to show off super speed earlier. They take Zantetsuken, but Lupin followed and frees Goemon. They listen in and discover this was all Fujiko's idea. Zenigata and McCreed conclude that the 8th bank will be the next target as the family prepare for their next Superman stunt. The police set up, but Lupin shows up in his own costume to tell them to move next door. Superman does his thing and the family move in and shoot up the supermarket. They fall short of outright blowing it up thanks to Lupin's tip at least. Lupin himself takes on Superman in a battle across the sky. He manages to lasso Superman and tear his costume, grounding him. As Lupin revels in his victory, Fujiko arrives with Zantetsuken in hand and her own super costume, chasing Lupin down for messing up her plans. I get the feeling that the writing staff were fans of Superman. That said, it's pretty obvious it wasn't going to be the actual Superman here, as I'm fairly sure even Lupin's staff realised that they wouldn't have a chance if they used the real deal. I question the realism of crowd of people being distracted by a fictional character like Superman flying around, but frankly I think the only difference between the 1970s and now is the lack of camera phones given what I've seen of people. Still, another entertaining episode, and I did like the minor twist that it was a group of brothers to give the effect of one guy showing off super speed. A little strange how invested Fujiko was in the scheme, but maybe she was getting a cut of the publicity profits or something. Lupin breaks into the Metropolitan to steal a small statue. Chased to the airport, he escapes with Fujiko on a plane. She explains that the statue, the Stone Child, was found at Stonehenge and is linked to a story about bringing happiness to its owner. As they talk, the plane's engines fail and Lupin realises they've flown into the Bermuda Triangle. While awaiting rescue, Lupin jokes about ghost ships, and right on cue, one appears. Fujiko's freaked out, but Lupin calms her and decides to explore it. He finds a recently laid table but falls through a trapdoor when he moves to inspect it. The ship then submerges and Fujiko is separated from Lupin. Reunited with Jigen and Goemon, she tells them the story, but Jigen suspects she's more interested in recovering the Stone Child. Still, they decide to search using a submarine that's seen better days, despite apparently only being used once before. Zenigata, meanwhile, looks for aid from the White Marine's owner, Heath. He's uninterested until Zenigata mentions the Stone Child, possessing one himself. Lupin is interrogated on the Stone Child but doesn't talk, causing the ship's leader Jana to make herself known. Jana mentions she was responsible for an interference that brought the plane down, and asks the location of another Stone Child, to Lupin's confusion. Lupin's locked up, but given he's got experience escaping prison cells, it doesn't hold him long. He confronts Jana and offers her information if she promises to partner with him. Jana tells Lupin that there are actually 3 stone children, having received one from her father. This man was an archaeologist at Stonehenge, finding a box with the statues inside. He was killed soon afterwards, but the killer only made off with one of them. The statues, suspected to be of alien origin, are tied to a story that something will happen when they're placed on Stonehenge at sunrise. Lupin thanks her for the info, but admits he really doesn't have any leads on the third stone child. Before they can talk further, the ship is attacked. Heath had ordered a full assault despite Zenigata's objections, forcing Janna to surface. As the two sides fight, Jigen plants a bomb underneath. Heath is disarmed and trips as he runs, dropping the stone child right in front of Janna. Before Janna can get her revenge, however, Lupin grabs her and abandons ship. Everyone watches the ships go up in flames, leaving Zenigata clinging to a piece of debris. At Stonehenge, the gang decides to put the story into motion, setting up the statues. As the sun rises, 3 beams of light fire up, summoning an alien spacecraft and seemingly confirming Stonehenge's alien origins. This one felt a bit underdeveloped, largely in the way of the antagonist's character. There's a good story underneath it, but it feels like they only really laid out a basic foundation and forgot to build on it. Ending was a bit trippy, though certainly not the last time Lupin will be dealing with aliens and alien technology. We open on a high society gourmet restaurant with its menagerie of exotic food. In the case of the main course, rather literally. Baron Gourmet, the owner, isn't interested, only wanting to sample the brain of Lupin III. Fujiko, standing among his team of chefs, gets interested when he mentions a diamond collection as a reward. We then get a cooking show style introduction, something they come back to in the episode a few times. Jigen and Goemon are preparing more mundane meals, but Lupin has been invited out to a fancy restaurant by Fujiko. She talks with Lupin about Gourmet's diamond collection and having trouble finding it. This is interrupted by Gourmet's men launching an assault on Lupin. He seemingly escapes but lands in a net, and Fujiko injects him with a knockout chemical. Zenigata spots Lupin being wheeled away but ends up frozen in their transport when he sneaks on board. Lupin and Zenigata are brought before Gourmet and Fujiko asks for her reward. Gourmet claims to not know what she's talking about and has his men prevent her from attacking, daring her to find the diamonds herself. In the meantime, Lupin is prepared, first by marinating in beer. Then they apply stuff like tenderizing, fattening up, and steaming. Zenigata is decided upon for a test meal, despite Gourmet turning up his nose to low-class food. The diamonds are revealed to be Gourmet's sets of teeth, and Zenigata wakes up thanks to the seasoning the chef supplies. Gourmet leaves him to his pet gorilla Marlene, who's interested in him but not as food. Oddly enough, the last episode to do this had the same key animator working on it. Fujiko has been continuing her search for the diamonds with no luck and finds Lupin not in much position to do anything. The night of the special course arrives, and Fujiko drives in the rest of the gang to help while they begin. Lupin's pinned in a machine that will open his head for the taste test. As the gang work in the kitchen, Gourmet samples his meal. He finds it to just be soup and gravel. Lupin then reveals that he was wearing a fat suit the whole time. Layers upon layers of disguises, I guess. And also that he now knows where Gourmet's diamonds are located. The gang join in the ensuing fight with some glue-like pies they prepared. Thanks to this, Gourmet's restaurant is put to a stop. Lupin then takes over the cooking show format, reminding everyone to eat healthy, otherwise you'll become a villain like Gourmet. Veering much more into slapstick on this episode. Still not exactly out of place given what we've seen over the series, and definitely one of the more unique antagonists. If this is the sort of food high society's into, I'm glad to be lower class. Next time, a hunt for Arsene's legacy, a murder mystery surrounding Zenigata, a duel between Jigen and an old rival, and a painting to cover a dinner bill bring us to the triple digits with episode 100. Until then.